planning on being here.
Okay. Well, in any event, and we know for sure that Roxanne is not due to the death in her family, so. But it is 6 o'clock, so let's start by calling our meeting to order, or getting started at least, I guess. Additions or deletions to the agenda, and Matt has requested a deletion for the agenda. He would like to delete the closed session request. So we'd entertain a motion for amending the agenda to delete that item.
Greg, I have a question.
Yes.
Before you do that. So I want to talk about something, complaint that I received at the end of the meeting. So I think that would fall under new business.
Yes.
Do I need to add that to the agenda, or do I just talk about that when the time comes? How's that work?
It's probably a good idea to add it to the agenda now if you would like to.
Okay.
But because it's new business, I think you're free to add anything at that point anytime you want.
Oh, okay. That would be fine too. I just wasn't sure, since new business had a number 1. I didn't know if I had to, but then it looks like he's deleting that anyway. So
Yes.
okay.
So I will do my best. Please, you may have to remind me that you want to do that. So
Okay.
I apologize in advance for not remembering.
Nope, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And I guess Sarah or Amy, do you know, is that the proper way? I mean, it seems like if it's an open item for the commissioners, they can add anything or talk about anything at that point that they want.
I think we need the gist of what the item is going to be.
Well, guys, this is Tony. I don't think there's not going to be, if it's just a matter of discussion, it would seem to me that you could bring up whatever you wanted to bring up. There's not going to be an action item. There's not going to be anything passed or approved or even received. So I don't know that you would have to put it on the agenda.
Okay, and I would agree too, because there'd be no point in having other new items if you had to identify them. So
yeah, and I think if someone was to think of something last minute and want to bring it up, it could become an agenda item in a subsequent meeting, I think. But I think just to discuss something, I don't know that has to be an amendment to the agenda.
Okay.
That sounds good to me.
I think that horse is dead. We'll quit beating on it. So with that, we will entertain a motion for the amended agenda. If someone so inclined, Roger. And I'm seeing Michelle wave her hand. I assume that's a support. Okay, I didn't quite catch it, but that was a support, right, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so Amy is going to call the vote today for us. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. If you would please on this one.
We'll just start out with Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
I guess I don't understand what the motion is.
I'm sorry, Larry. The motion is to amend the agenda because Matt wants to remove his request for a closed session.
Yes, then.
Okay, thank you.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
and Roxanne. Thank you.
Very good. So that motion is passed. We now have an amended agenda to work with. Next up would be the roll call. I don't know how we do that afterwards, but if you'd like to call the roll, or have you already taken it?
We have already taken it.
You're already taken it. Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll move down to the Pledge of Allegiance. So are you going to post a flag for us?
I will, yes.
Amy, Sarah? Okay. So if you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Step out of the picture.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. That seems to be the most awkward part of the meeting that we can't get right. It's hard to do that in unison.
It was better, though.
Pardon me?
It was better.
You're getting better. Okay. Well, let's hope we don't do this long enough that we get really good at it. Next up, we have approval. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the August 11th, 2020 regular meeting session.
So moved.
You heard Nick.
Support.
Support from Roger. Okay, Amy, you're up again, please.
All right. Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, and Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and that motion is carried. We have approved the minutes. My apologies, I guess I didn't ask for discussion on that. I presume since everyone voted yes that there was no items to be discussed. So we'll move on down to hearings. And we need to hold a public hearing or set a public hearing. Hold a public hearing for Tuesday, I guess, okay. So we are holding the hearing today, I'm sorry. Today at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter to allow the closeout report for Shiloh Diecast Midwest LLC job training project, the MEDC grant number MSC 214074-EDJT and grant number MSC 214075-EDJT. So we need to open that hearing.
Motion, we open hearing.
Support.
We have a motion support. Any comments or questions on this? Hearing none. Amy, if you would, please.
Let me do a public hearing.
You're muted, Amy.
So
You want
yes.
me to do the report?
Well, we
Just
need
have
a
the
motion to open the meeting though, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry.
We've got a motion on the table to open the meeting, I should say.
Nick,
Yes, again.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that motion is passed. We have a hearing open. Now, Eric, I believe you were volunteering, I heard.
Yes. Sorry about that. Like you mentioned, the two grants, this is the retraining grants from the MEDC for Shiloh Diecast to bring more employment to the city of Alma's facility here. The total grant amount was $1 million, and that was to train these new employees or employees that wanted to move up for the new line that was being brought to the Alma facility as opposed to a facility out of state. The part of what Shiloh needed to do for the grant was not only provide the job training, but to provide, bring in the new equipment and machinery needed for the new jobs. The grant dollars were dedicated to the job training, like we mentioned. The grant agreement also required that 51% of the new jobs must go to the individuals that qualified as low to moderate income. Underneath the MSC 214074-EDJT, that was the first grant. It was broken up into two different grant cycles with 4 milestones. This one ran through June 1st, 2015 through May 31st, 2017. The total forgivable loan amount for the job training underneath that agreement was for $177,787. The first milestone that was reached and a payment of $66,667 was paid. And then milestone number 2, once that was reached, $111,111 was paid out. The match the company brought into the facility, that was the equipment and other things that they did to start this line rolling, was $7,514,407. The total low to moderate income individuals that received those jobs was 68%. So 5 of the 8 new jobs went to individuals that qualified as the low to moderate income based on annual family income, household income, which was the requirement of the grant. So the next one took over right after that one left off. That's MSC 214075-EDJT. The grant term was May 31st, 2017 through May 1st, 2019. This grant was a forgivable loan of $822,222, and again was paid out in 2 milestones. When milestone number 1 was reached, a payment of $444,444 was sent, and then milestone number 2 received a payment of $377,778 was sent. During this time period, to get the rest of the line into production, the company match for this section of the grant agreement totaled $11,801,678. The jobs created for this part of the grant was 37 new jobs. 68% of those did go to low to moderate income based individuals on family and household income. So 25 jobs went to those individuals. So everything is complete. This is the last piece that we needed to do to close out our grant. Once this is over with, we'll send our completed minutes and a resolution that this an excerpt of minutes that this took place to MEDC, so we can close this out and move on to another project. So any questions? That's everything I need to say right now.
Sounds great, Eric. I presume everything's up and running well now, and
everything was up and running. Obviously, things have been a little slow with the manufacturers, with less demand for cars at this point. But that line is there. The reason they brought that line here was because of that job training grant that was almost headed to Fort Wayne, Indiana area. So at least we were able to keep those here. We haven't received anything from Shiloh, with any layoffs or anything like that. So all is good there.
you don't happen to know what models of vehicles those are going into, or even more manufacturing?
They're pieces for a 9-speed transmission for GM.
Okay. A GM, you said it's a GM
GM.
transmission?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Nice to know. Anybody else have questions or comments? Okay. And so I guess we'll entertain a motion to close our hearing.
So moved. Support.
Our motion and support. Comments or questions on that? Hearing none. Amy, if you would, please. You are muted again. There we go. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The lag time, so sorry.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor, Larry,
Yes.
and Nick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion is carried and the hearing is closed. And with that, I presume, Eric, that there's no further action that we need to take. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, there wasn't anything on the agenda, so, and we have nothing under consent, request for purchase or recommendation on bids. I'm sorry, Larry, did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. I don't want to cut anybody off. So none of those 3 items. We have resolutions. We got two to cover here. The first one is a consideration of a resolution to proclaim August 31st, 2020 as Overdose Awareness Day in the city of Alma. Your
Move
pleasure.
approval.
Michelle
Support.
and Roger. Okay.
I can let you know,
Motion
Greg,
support
that I
on the
was,
table. Any comments and questions?
I was approached
Staffing.
by a resident here in the city who was active with the National Overdose Awareness Program, who brought this. This is a day that's being recognized in the state of Michigan and all over the country. So, and it's a problem that we all have wherever we live. So I think the idea of we'll actually be lowering the flags to half staff too on August 31st for this.
Comments or questions?
Greg,
Hearing none. What? I'm sorry.
We couldn't hear what you were just saying.
Me?
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, can't hear you.
No, I was asking for comments or questions. I apologize.
No.
I would just add, there is a gathering or a rally of some sort at the Capitol on this day. I don't have details on time or anything, but I did see something come across my desk regarding that. So
Good to know. Thank you, Audra. Does anybody else have comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the vote then. Amy, if you would, please.
Audra,
yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
I didn't hear
Yes.
you, Amy. Okay.
and Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy. With that, that motion is carried as well. We have a proclamation in place. Next up, we are to consider a resolution exempting the city of Elma from the requirement of PA 152 of 2011 per the calendar year 2021. And the note from staff indicates that on 9/27/11, the Public Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, which is PA 152, became effective, and that requires, whoops, I just lost my agenda. Hang on. I should not have touched it. Here we go. Okay, so PA 152 became effective, which requires public employees to either contribute less than the hard cap towards the medical benefit plan, or employees contribute at least 20% of the cost of the medical plan. The city of Elma contributes considerably less than the hard cap and is in compliance with the new law and able to exempt itself from the requirement of PA 152 for the calendar year 2021. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Move approval. Support.
Okay, we have a motion of support. Does anybody have any comments or questions? We've done this for a number of years now, so nothing new here. But if you have questions, please ask them. Hearing none, we'll move to the vote then. Amy, please.
Roger,
Did you say Audra?
Roger,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
and Audra.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy. It looks like that motion is carried as well. And with that, it seems like we're struggling with our audio a little bit tonight. I think mine did last time too, but I guess we can be glad we're on here at all, because I heard yesterday that Zoom was like it's down for a while at least. So happy we have at least what we have. Next up, moving down to agreements. The first one is consideration of a resolution to approve the Elma Transit revised fiscal year 2021 resolution of intent to decrease the total estimated expenses due to changes in the projections for service, and to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the city of Elma. And the note from staff indicates that this revision reduces the transit total estimated expenses from $3,051,254 as approved in the resolution 2020 quadruple 07 fiscal year 2021. Resolution of intent to $1,390,250. The budget was originally submitted based on projections, including countywide service, which we're now anticipating will not be in place for 2021. So we'll entertain that motion.
Move approval.
Support.
We have a motion support. Comments, questions, or staff want to note anything first?
Greg, you hit it. It's just the timing. Brett, you can go ahead and give that on there too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's just cleaning up the paperwork. We had to go big because we can obviously back off how much money we would have asked for, but we couldn't have done it the other way around. So side with caution, and now this is just the.
Okay. Any comments from commissioners? I think we talked a little bit about this at the time we were setting the budget, that we could always go backwards, but we can't go forward. So it makes a lot of sense there. So with that, no more questions. Amy, if you would please call the vote for us.
Roxanne. Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That motion is passed as well. Now, excitement here. Consideration of a resolution to approve the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Project Agreement for the city's park restroom rebuild and rehab accessibility project in the amount of $173,000, and to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. So the project includes the construction of new restroom facility at Wright Park and the rehab of the restrooms at Riverside Park and the Pine River / Conservation Park. Total estimated project cost is $346,000. The city's match for the project will be $173,000. So
Make a motion.
I heard a
Well-
motion.
Support.
Lots of
Support
enthusiasm
A.
on this one. Okay, any comments or questions from staff?
Thank
Matt,
you,
Eric?
Eric, for all your help on this, and Matt, whoever was involved.
No, it finally came through, and it's good to finally get this thing moving. We'll be back soon for the commission to approve the prime professional for design work.
Fantastic.
Yes. We've been wanting that for some time, so tried for it before and didn't get it. So, okay, with that, we'll take the vote. Amy, if you would, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Elle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
and Roxanne. Thank you.
I think I heard Roxanne say yes too, so on that one. But the motion definitely carried, and I think everybody involved, I know Eric did a lot of heavy lifting on that one, and we're all very excited to see this project come to fruition, I'm sure.
Reports.
So next we'll move down to reports. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. We have 3 reports, the Elmo Police Report for July 2020, our Finance Report, and the City Manager's Report. Your pleasure.
I'll pull mine.
I think we need to pull the city manager's report out for the
The discussion.
marijuana things, don't we?
Yep. Thank you, Roger.
Anybody care to pull anything else? Okay, hearing none, we'll entertain, or we'll do the
Motion to receive,
motion, yes.
move to receive, with the exception pulled out.
Yes, thank you.
Support.
Okay, motion support. All right, Amy, would you please call the vote on that one? You're muted again.
A
Yep.
mistake. I got her, sorry.
Larry,
You say Larry?
I sure did, Larry.
Yes.
Nick,
Yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, and Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that motion is carried. We did pull the city manager's report. So Matt, if you would like to, I guess maybe we should have a motion to accept yours first, get it out there, or do you want to cover it first? Motion for receipt?
motion to receive the city manager's report.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have motion support. Comments, Matt, why don't you start out and then we'll quiz you afterwards.
I'll hit first, and I'm pretty sure we'll get into this into the commissioner comments and everything too at the end, but the volunteer from the college, the Sunday was phenomenal of what we went through to see that many students. And Michelle, thank you so much for getting that all organized. It was quite a sight to see 450 of them spreading out all over the community. And if you've had a chance to drive around and take a look at the library and King Park are the two that just stick out to me. Amazing what a fresh coat of paint and stain will do to get that through. And big kudos to Public Works Superintendent Bob Albrecht of getting all of the paints and stains and organized. The students showed up at the sites and were able to get right to work. It's amazing what they did in 2 hours, but 450 hands out doing good things for the community. So very, very thankful of that. I know we talked about the Hayes Street project already and some pictures there that's now getting going in full force. And the major item, and I'll jump down to the MERS retirement conference just so that you have that information there, that it will be a virtual conference. And if you're interested, to let me know and I'll get that out to you. I'll actually send an email out to you with some of the other further information as to what that's going to look like. The big update here is on the medical marijuana provisioning center update. We're back on the 23rd, meeting on June 23rd. Any representatives of the entities that are holding their provisional licenses for the centers came to the commission and appealed to you folks for an extension beyond the July 16th, 2020 deadline that had been provided by staff due to the COVID construction shutdown. Based on what those folks have brought to you and talked with the commission, you approved an extension to November 1st, 2020. So since that extension, staff was asked by the commission how everything was coming along with our three entities on their projects. So on August 12th, staff sent a letter out with a copy of the meeting minutes to each entity, just again reminding them of the November 1st deadline. And the letter also requested that each entity provide a written report on the status of their project to assist in verifying that they will make that November 1st deadline. So contained in your packet were those responses and where they're going. So I think that the idea that we're asking for here is that as part of the discussion is to look at that November 1st deadline. Is that a deadline that we're saying we're definitely at? I know some of the different responses that were in there, and I believe Mr. Kran is here tonight to speak to you probably during the public session. But just want to make sure that we've followed everything that we have to this point. Tony, I know you can speak to this also, that we feel like we followed everything to our ordinance and been very, very generous in our time of the extension that you folks gave in the last meeting.
Yeah, if I might just for a second, when the process was laid out, the city decided that there was going to be the lottery. There was, I think, in excess of 1920 participants in the lottery. And we made it clear to all the participants that they should hang on to their number for a year, because if any of the successful lottery winners weren't able to get the certificate of occupancy within a year, next in line would take over. And that has been the city's intent from the very beginning. The COVID situation we felt was outside everyone's control, and for sure for the period of the shutdown, but even after that. And so initially there was the thought that we would extend the deadline, the number of days that construction was shut down, just like as the city manager has indicated. The three successful lottery winners appealed to the commission at that time to say, wait a minute, it wasn't just the time that we were shut down that mattered, but there was difficulty in obtaining construction workers and material after the shutdown was lifted. And I think, they appealed to the city commission. The city commission said, that made sense to them. And they treated all of these folks the same as they should have, because this crisis was outside everyone's control. And so that's why the extension was to November 1st. And I think it's important to keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, the city has told those unsuccessful lottery participants that they will get their opportunity if one or more of the lottery winners don't make it. That has been our policy since the beginning. And up till now, we have treated everyone the same, and the only extensions we gave were for situations we felt were outside of anyone's control. And so I think it is important. I think we've been consistent. We followed our policy, and obviously my recommendation would be we continue to follow our policy.
Tony. Anybody else have comments or questions for Matt or Tony or? No? Did you have anything further on your report, Matt, that you want to cover?
Oh, that's it, Greg. Thank you.
Okay. So no, I'm hearing no questions for Matt. So with that, we'll entertain a motion. Larry, did you have one?
Well, I just feel very strongly we need to stick to that November 1st deadline, no matter what happens.
Thank you, Larry.
In fairness, would this not be a better time to listen to Mr. Karana, what he has to say about it, rather than at the end of the meeting, if we're going to vote on this?
Well,
We're
there's
not
no
voting on,
agenda
we're only
item.
voting on receiving Matt's report. We're not taking any action on anything else. There's nothing, no
Okay.
proposal on the table for anything else.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Is that correct, Tony?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
There's no action item today.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. Okay.
And okay, so hearing no more, I guess we'll entertain a motion to receive Matt's report at this point.
We already have that motion, don't we?
Oh, we did. Yes. Okay, you're right. We did that first. I'm sorry. So now we'll turn it over to Amy, if you would, please.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
and Larry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that motion is carried, and we've now received all three of those reports. Next up, we have appointments. We'd like to consider an appointment of Matt Schooley, City Manager, and myself as Mayor to the Greater Gratiot Development Incorporated Board of Directors for the term beginning October 1st, 2020, which would run through September 30th, 2021.
Move approval.
Motion.
Nick, and I think we have two motions and no support at this point. Would either Larry or
I'll
Nick?
support it.
Okay, so Nick will take the support. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we will we'll turn it back over to Amy for vote then.
You, Michelle,
Yes.
Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
and Nick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that motion is carried as well. Thank you very much. Moving down, there's no unfinished business, so new business. We removed that single item that Matt had entertained or had asked to be removed from the closed session, but I believe Audra had indicated a desire to talk about something here, so.
Yeah. And of course I have a tickle in my throat right now that it's time for me to talk. So excuse me, but yeah,
Good planning.
I know, exactly. I just wanted to, I guess, bring to the meeting so that it's kind of somewhat official, that I have received a few complaints regarding 933 Center Street in Elma. The concerns are related to blight, and I'll say the concerns, there are three separate complaints from three separate people. However, one of the complaints that contacted me is speaking on behalf of 4 of the neighbors. So when you look at that, that's about 7 complaints. So I thought maybe it might be time that the commissioners start a discussion. I know I did email in the complaints that I received, but I think probably it's good to have them on record as well. And I know, Tony, you can jump in whenever you want. You and I have had some discussions about maybe how to address this issue or to move forward from our standpoint.
Yeah, I'd be happy to anytime. We looked into this in light of the complaints and Audra's inquiry. And there is a provision in the city charter, section 8.2 C, that allows the city commission after investigation to take action It says when any lot, building, or structure within the city because of age or dilapidation or the accumulation of refuse or debris and other things, in the opinion of the commission, is a public hazard or nuisance, dangerous to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the city. And what that allows the commission to do is to notify the resident of what it is that's the nuisance, what the resident has to do to rectify the problem, and to give the resident a certain amount of time to do it. And if the resident doesn't do it, then the city then does it, and the resident is charged, and ultimately that charge, if not paid, can become a lien on the property, like taxes would be. And I did look into this, and there are a couple of problems with that provision that I feel make its use by the city commission not advisable. Let's say that. First of all, there is a due process requirement, according to the courts, anytime anything like this is to be done, which would allow an individual who was contacted a hearing to determine whether or not this existed and what exactly could be done. And so what would happen is there would be a mini trial, basically, with testimony, with exhibits and whatever else. Then the city commission would have to decide what the nuisance was. They'd have to decide exactly what had to be done to fix it and what length of time they would give the individual to do that. The way this ordinance is written, it does not pass constitutional muster. This ordinance does not provide that due process that's required. But over and above that, this has always been the province of the code enforcement officer within the city and not the city commission. And I could only imagine if the city commission decided to take this on, that every meeting you would have at least one of these, if not more, because I'm sure there are other properties out there that people are concerned about. And you guys would be set up as prosecutor, judge, and jury every time this came up. I don't believe that's what you folks ought to be doing with your time. This, like I said, is really the province of the code enforcement officer. We have discussed that. And one option is in situations that are extraordinary, in situations where there have been numerous contacts between the city and the resident and numerous forgiveness, I guess, of what would otherwise have been civil infractions to get compliance. Then in those situations, the code enforcement officer could cite the individual every time they're in violation with a civil infraction. Because when you're in violation, you have committed a civil infraction. If you rectify the violation, that doesn't change the fact that on day one, you were in violation and subject to the fines and penalties. So we could by civil infraction cite these individuals in these extraordinary cases so that if they continue to be an issue, it's going to be very expensive for them because even when they comply, they're going to have to pay. And hopefully that will persuade, I guess, people to keep their property in line with all of the blight and noxious weed and other ordinances at the same time. And Aaron and I and Matt and Eric have talked about this, and I think, and they can correct me, but I think in certain extraordinary situations, that's the tact we feel we ought to take.
Hey, Tony,
Yes.
it's sort of a variation on the theme. Someone's not in compliance, and I think in this particular situation, it's an outlier, but they also get in compliance and they go out of compliance again. You said forgiveness. What if, like similar to the courts, which is we aren't going to put this fine into place unless you violate, you do a violation within, say, 24 months or something, in which case it's now cumulative. That becomes your second violation and you pay the first one because we didn't forgive it. We just didn't act on it. You had 2 years, so there's not a problem, or 1 year or whatever. So somebody gets it done, then they're out of compliance again, then they get it done. It's kind of like, okay, we're not going to charge you, but we're not forgiving it. We're just not charging you yet. First, if you're out of compliance again, then you're charged for that one plus the new one. Can you
Yeah,
do that? Like the
yes.
courts will do that.
And-
They'll not act on something, and if someone stays in line, they decide not to charge someone after a year. But they have a period of time where they can say, you're out of compliance. We aren't going to charge you unless this happens again within a certain period.
Yeah,
And then you
my
get
thought would be, and like I say, Aaron and I have talked about it, and I think, we can discuss and work out the finer points of it. But my thought would be that in situations where there have been numerous attempts to gain compliance, and the individual will do what they need to do, just barely to get into compliance, let's say with respect to one issue, and then let other issues go, and this is a continual issue, continual problem. There could be a letter drafted either by this office or the city, basically saying, okay, look, we've tried it. We've done it the way we'd hoped would gain compliance without any cost to you. From now on, here's the deal. Every time you're in violation, you will be cited and you will not be forgiven. And this is how it's going to work in the future. Hopefully that letter would persuade folks to get in line. If it didn't, then we would proceed to go the civil infraction route. They've been warned on numerous occasions. And like I said, this isn't the run of the mill. This would be an extraordinary situation. And at that point, then, it's going to become expensive for those folks if they want to remain, out of compliance and only doing what they need to do when warned and cited. I mean, that's the thought, I guess, from this side of it.
And am I correct in when like 1033 Fairview has had several complaints also, and they're renters, that letter would go to the landowner, correct?
In my mind, the letter would go to both.
I can hop in here if everybody doesn't mind. Yeah, in that case, if we've got a renter violating on a rental property, identical notices are sent to the landlord and the tenant.
Okay.
Ultimately, the responsibility, in my mind, falls on the property owner to rectify the problem. But the renter, the tenant, is often involved in the issue at some level, so the city notifies them at the same time they notify the property owner. As to 933 West Center, I hesitate to go into any specifics in a public meeting, but I can say that the property is currently not in compliance with the city's blight ordinance. A fine was issued within the past 30 days, and a fine they're scheduled for a scheduled checkup this week, and another fine will be issued if the property is not in compliance at that time. Mr. Costanzo's office has drafted a letter. Tony can confirm whether or not that's gone out. If it hasn't, it's going out shortly. That summarizes that the city is no longer interested in, waiting for compliance, and that we'll just continue to issue fines in that regard. So, does anybody have any questions for me on that? I'm happy to answer them, but I don't want to go into specifics at this time.
The fines that are levied, come to mind initially. The fines that are levied, if they are unpaid, do those become a lien on the property as part of the property taxes, Tony, or are those just civil infractions that? What's the club here?
Well, they can be converted. They're civil judgments, basically, and
Okay.
and we can resort to whatever collection remedies you can resort to in any type of a with respect to any civil judgment. We can. There are things at our disposal that should allow us to collect.
And one of the things to remember in a civil infraction, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but intent's not the factor here. The reality is if it is seen, cited at that point in time, the civil infraction and the fine is administered at that point in time.
That's
What
exactly.
we're doing is taking away that compliance period, because we've had a lot of discussion about the compliance period in the past.
Yeah, and I know in the past Aaron has been instructed, and Eric and everybody's been very generous with warnings on these things, yet we still have a number of properties that are not compliant at this point. And I think it is time, we talked about initially when we did this several years back, when we first started this discussion and handing out warnings, and became very lenient, and instructed Aaron to be very lenient with that at some point our stance was going to change. And I believe this is the time that our stance has changed and the fines will be levied. Are there tools out there, Tony, that are not in our current ordinances that we may need to facilitate the enforcement and collection of these fines?
No, I don't think so. I think like I said, we can collect these fines like you could collect a civil judgment. Now, if you run into somebody that is uncollectible, I guess that's a different story. But I don't believe that. I'd be surprised if that's the case.
But the collection process would go through the courts then, not through our property tax collection
That's
process.
my understanding. That's correct. I do not believe that there's a provision in the civil infraction section that allows us to add that on to the tax assessment.
Okay, so then the next question in my mind becomes, is the fine stiff enough or large enough to cover whatever collection actions we may be forced to take, or are we able to collect those costs as well?
Yeah, those costs would be added on. The cost, let's say, of a garnishment or something like that could be added on. And also, you got to keep in mind that those civil infractions, each day is a separate offense too. So these can add up very quickly.
Okay, well, my thinking was if we're sending you into court on our behalf, that's going to be fairly expensive.
And that's one of the reasons. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we have. This is not something that's going to be utilized. First of all, the city's not in the business, and we've never tried to, enforce things this way. And I think we've gotten compliance in 99% of these cases without the need for this. This is an extraordinary remedy, I think, for extraordinary cases. But there are some of those out there, and I'm hoping that once this starts and people start to understand that we're going to do it and that it's going to happen to them, that hopefully you're going to get compliance. That's all we're asking for. We take no pleasure in prosecuting anybody, and we take no pleasure in collecting fines from anybody. We're just trying to get done what should have been done, without this hammer. And hopefully word gets out and we don't have to utilize this very often.
I think
we need to be consistent.
Well, yeah, that's it, Larry. The other part that has to be made clear is that the definition of some of these things and what's in the ordinance, unfortunately, the reality is it's not up to the complainant, to the neighbor. Aaron has to look at certain guidelines that say it's the 10 inches of grass, it's the things like that, and what is junk, what is, and it has to fit that definition. It can't just be, we don't like it, I don't like it. It has to be that it fits the ordinance. And I think that my thing here is we have done a very good job, in my opinion, of gaining compliance. The unfortunate reality is those places that are out of compliance seem and are a real pain. So they seem like so many. We've been very, very successful in gaining compliance in the overwhelming majority. Like we said, 99% of the cases. It's those ones that are the extreme ones. So I don't want to see, because I have seen, and if you read about some cities that have really decided to really attack some of these things, it's really come back to bite them in certain situations. So applying the law, like Larry said, evenly and making sure we're doing that. And it is an extreme case when we go to this.
Do we have sufficient guidelines in place? Sorry, go ahead, Larry.
There's a dozen houses that needs to be tore down. They're a disgrace. And if we're going to do something, we need to do it to everybody, not just 938 Center.
Larry,
We're dealing with different.
we're talking about two different things, though. If you're talking about a house that needs to be torn down, there is the dangerous building statute in the state of Michigan, and Alma has enacted ordinances that conform to that. That's a process that's set in stone as far as how you do it. And that is available, but that's a whole different thing. And I mean, that's something I guess we could talk about, but that dangerous building ordinance, it's really clear how you do it and when you do it. And that is available in certain situations.
I think we really need to be consistent on what we're doing. And I think we have to get together and decide exactly what our guidelines are going to be. Because if we're going to lower the hammer on one of these, I know all of us can think of at least two others that are kind of awaiting the hammer being dropped. And I think we just need to be prepared, if we're going to do it consistently.
let me just say this too, because I really believe that this is the province of the code enforcement officer. I don't know that the city commission wants to be getting into the business of deciding when something's a nuisance. I think this is a situation where this needed to be talked about so that it gets out in the public. This is how we're going to handle this in extreme situations. But Aaron has done a great job as far as determining when there's a problem and how to handle the problem, and knowing then when the ordinary attempts at trying to handle it just aren't working. And I think we leave it in his capable hands.
Agreed.
And we let it, take its course.
I agree, Tony, that it's the providence of the code enforcement officer, but I want to make sure that we have some assurances, either through his own internal processes. It doesn't have to be an ordinance that we are going to guide him through, but I want to make sure he's protected and we're protected, that the application of his enforcement is fair. And I'm not sure what we've got in place as far as guidance that we've given him, his job description, or the powers that we have given him before he goes to a supervisor, some internal processes, and I don't have to prescribe them, but maybe Eric and Matt both have to sign off before it gets to a certain level, something like that. And that would be a staff decision that Matt and the team can figure out what that is. But I think it would be wise of us to have a defensible process in place to ensure that these ordinances are enforced fairly.
Well, first of all, Aaron has this at his disposal day one. You could cite somebody for a civil infraction violation every time they're in violation. The city has decided, and I think rightly so, that you get better compliance if you try to talk to people with respect and dignity, and you appeal to their better side, and you say, hey, this has to be taken care of. And I think he's done a great job at that. My own personal feeling is I haven't seen anything from Aaron to lead me to believe that he is going to be anything but fair. And he's the one that knows, because he knows what he's done, and he knows when what he's done hasn't brought the results that he wanted. To me, he's the perfect guy to know exactly when we do this. There'll be discussion, I think, always, because he's going to talk to me, and certainly Matt and Eric and anyone else can get involved in that. But I think it's in very capable hands.
To speak to the fairness of application in this particular process, just so everyone understands a little better, the scope of the complaint at the property between the city and the property owner at this point involves refuse in the yard area. So we're looking at the definitions of refuse in our zoning code, and identifying what doesn't meet that criteria on the property. And that's something we've been universally doing about the city in all neighborhoods and all properties as we go along, as we're going after refuse in the yard area. So, I mean, I'm not going to speak to a greater degree, but there probably are other violations, but in the scope of fairness, the violation that has been cited and fined for is for refuse in the yard area, which is something we enforce throughout the city quite evenly and fairly aggressively. So,
fairness is in the eye of the beholder. Typically, I think we want to be consistent. The thing, I think, to Greg's point, though, Tony, is it is not about how Aaron's doing his job, which is fine. It is about how that position does it. So even if it doesn't have to be hard and fast guidelines, but perhaps some procedural thing. So 3 years down the road, if something different's doing the job, there's a procedure in place to trigger this.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate the discussion. I didn't bring it up because I wanted to say that, there's hundreds of homes that need to be looked at or anything like that. I just feel that we have a responsibility, as commissioners, to at least look at it and to address it, because I have received several complaints from neighbors in that neighborhood. And so, when this is going on a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year issue, or whatever it is, 4 or 5 years, I think they said, the feeling is enough. So I appreciate the work that Tony's done to look into it. And Aaron, I always appreciate what you do, because I can't imagine that it's a very easy job. So I think there's some good conversation here, and I think that there's some good solutions with what Tony and Aaron are talking about. And I'm just happy to at least be able to tell the people who have contacted me that there has been some discussion about it. Because at least it's a step forward. You know, when you live in a neighborhood and it's a beautiful, all those neighborhoods I mentioned are beautiful neighborhoods, you know, and you have a nice home and you keep your home up, you just expect the same of your neighbors. So appreciate the discussion.
Thank you, Audra, and I too appreciate you bringing it up and bringing it to our attention. You know, we've all heard this about different properties, I'm sure, throughout the city over the years, and you know that's a reason that Aaron is on staff to begin with. So,
hey guys, just let you know that my iPad is dying and won't charge, so I'm trying to get on my phone. So if I disappear, I'm trying to access my phone.
Okay.
And side note, I still need that new iPad because it's not charging. So I'll be here for 6 more percent, and then I'll be gone trying to get on my phone.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll get back. You'll get on your phone before
Hopefully
that.
They'll let me in, Sarah, Aaron, somebody.
Are there any other additional comments on this topic? And staff, Matt, do you have enough direction, you think, of the intention of the commission at this point?
I think I think that the approach that Aaron is taking right now and where we're at, if we have these continued, and Greg, somebody mentioned, or maybe it was Nick, those discussions are happening on a daily basis of that in different properties, and we've actually been doing some planning on some other ones, and I think it follows that same pattern that we're talking about. So I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And from my perspective, and sometimes I know I get overly cautious, working at a bank, you know, we're a very highly regulated industry, and the auditors and examiners are frequently looking over our shoulder. So my tendency is probably to over document things, but I can tell you if questions of fairness come up, it's much better to have that documentation already in place, that what you did was fair and why you made your decisions, have the reasons that you're making your decisions documented as you do them, is always going to be in your favor. You will never regret having them if you are asked. So just
believe me, with Aaron, you have someone
if Tony has to go to court to defend us, I'm sure he would appreciate having anything you can come up with at that point as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items for new business tonight? Hearing none, we'll go to appropriations.
Move to pay the appropriations.
And a motion, and we have support. Comments or questions on the appropriations for this evening? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote then. Amy, if you would, please. You are muted.
There you go. Audra,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
and Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. It looks like that has passed as well. So appreciation to everyone. We'll move now to commissioner comments. And Roger, you can be first tonight.
Can put me on first again. Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody that in something new, the Gratiot County Players are putting on a one-man show that will take about an hour this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the alley between the ACA building and the theater. Tickets will go on sale at 6:30. You need to buy the tickets there and then go eating something because you need to be back by 7:30. But they can't go on any sooner than that because we can only hold, I don't know what the capacity is that they have set up. But Jay-Z has put together a really, really good one-man show. Last Man in, I don't remember the name of the town, Marienbad or something like that. It's the story of a railroad depot manager who started in 1923 or something and went through 1950 in a very small town, and his recollections of what went on and the things that he did in that town. It's a really good show. It will be worth your while to see. If it gets rained out, there are 2 additional dates that can go on for, I think the Saturday afternoon performances, but give it a try. I think it'll be worth your while.
Roger, look forward to seeing that. So next would be Nick.
Yeah, just I'm excited about the work being done in the parks and the restrooms. I think that's terrific. I think Jay-Z's show will be good. Also, the students that volunteered, that's fantastic, and it'll be interesting to have them back around town to see how that all works too.
Thank you, Nick. Audra.
Yeah, I was just going to say welcome back to Elma College students. We hope that they can stay for the whole semester and the whole year. So if everybody in the town of Elma does their part, wears their masks and hand sanitize and all that good stuff, so we can keep the college students safe. And I'm sure they're going to try to do the same for us. So parks look wonderful. Michelle, great job coordinating and collaborating with all that. It was really, I got to follow the process on Facebook with everything you were posting, and it was amazing seeing the pictures afterwards, and it's awesome. So thanks.
Thank you, Audra. Michelle.
I just wanted to thank again all the students and Bob and Eric and Matt for all their help, and the DPW people that went back out and finished the painting and picked up the bags and brushed that the kids. And Garrett Bott and Daryl Cook came down and ran the power tools so that a lot of the shrubs could be taken down. So I thank them both for volunteering. And get out there and enjoy those trails through town. Enjoy the end of summer.
Thank you, Michelle. Larry.
I'd just like to commend the Elma College students. If you go by the college, probably 99% of them are wearing masks. And it looks real good to see that from what's going on in Mount Pleasant. So just appreciate that.
Hey, thank you, Larry. Matt.
I'll just let you know that, we did open our building back up. We've only been 2 days in, so a little different feeling. It's a slow trickle of people coming back in, but still looks sparse in here with all of our markings and everything out there. But for staff, nobody's expressed to me they're all concerned. We're doing our job. Everybody's able to go about their business, and we'll just continue on. So I thank staff for their commitment to the people of the community, and keep using the drop boxes and the things that we have available for people. And that'll get us through this. So thank you very much.
Matt, Tony.
Well, yeah, I echo what everybody has said. Larry, I think you're 100% right. It's fantastic to see the Elma College kids back. You're right. I mean, almost every one of them is wearing a mask. It's actually enjoyable now stopping at that intersection, letting them go through. It's great to see it. And Michelle, God, fantastic job. And everybody that helped you and all those volunteers, that's fantastic. Eric and everybody that helped you with respect to that grant, that's fantastic. A lot of good news tonight. Things are looking up, folks.
Agreed. Thank you, Tony. Sarah and/or Amy.
I just wanted to let you know that Amy is going to be covering for me at the next meeting, September 8th. I'm going to be out of town, so I would just ask for your patience and be gentle.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Certainly she performed admirably tonight. So.
Hey, Greg. I have one other request is, before we go to bed tonight and say our prayers, let's remember Roxanne losing her father.
Yes, Larry, absolutely. Which is the reason why she
Agreed.
didn't want to join us today. So, if the family goes through that difficult time, we'll certainly.
Greg, we've lost your audio.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? Is that better? All right. Thank you. And thank you, Larry, for that reminder. We appreciate that. Sarah and Amy, thank you for your, non-comments in this case. So I'd like to also add my appreciation to Elma College students, Michelle, Eric, and everybody on city staff that was involved. It's very much appreciated. They really helped the city look better, especially in this year when we early on in the summer we made the decision not to hire as much part-time help to help clean things like that up. So we did fall considerably behind. So the appreciation of the college students for helping us catch up a little bit. And with that, I also wanted to mention that I had some contact with Jeremiah Tobias, who is the wrestling coach at Elma College, and his wife, Katie, of course, is the state farm agent downtown. And they were informing me that the Elma College wrestling team is the #1 wrestling team in the MIAA as far as community service hours, and they're looking for more things to do. So they volunteered.
Oh, don't you worry. They're already
up
on
some
my
more.
list for the fall cleanup. They come down every year. Don't you
Yep,
worry.
and they've got some things planned already. They're going to hit some of the parking lots downtown and perhaps the rail trail if they can, or the rail trail or the river walk. Eric, I believe, is looking into some other things for them. So they are looking for more work. They want to maintain their position. And so that's great news. So there's going to be even more to come. Very happy about that. So.
Yep, and the cheer team is volunteered on Friday night, and they're already reaching out and wanting to do projects also. So we have a lot of great students that are active. So it'll be great.
That's terrific. Great to have them back in town. They're very useful as far as just nice to have kids around. It's nice to be around kids. So a great group. We appreciate them. So with that, we'll open up to the public. Or is there any member of the public that would like to address the commission? If so, please speak up or wave your hand, or however you can let us know you're there. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the commission? Okay. So it looks like if you're on the phone and want to speak, you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You have to push *6. You can't just unmute yourself on the phone, just for future reference.
Please state your name and address so that we know who you are for the record.
My name is Benjamin D. Jope. I represent Oakland LLC. I'm located here in southeastern Michigan.
Okay, could I stop for just a second? Sarah and Amy, did you get the name and everything for the record? I want to make sure we get this documented properly.
Yes.
You're good there? Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm speaking on behalf of Oakland LLC about the medical marijuana provisioning centers. Oak Flint has the provisioning center on Heather Lane, which right now is just a metal structure up right now. And I just want to bring to the commission's attention, we did really appreciate the initial extension, and it is very helpful, but we are in the time of COVID right now, and that has brought on a lot of things that we haven't seen, a lot of difficulties getting things done. Our main difficulty is procuring lumber. If you go home and you Google or look up on the internet and you look for lumber shortage, you will find out we are in the midst of a gigantic lumber shortage. We can't get lumber for our studs or walls or trusses, things of that nature. And I do understand that people have said, hey, look, we've already extended it enough. You should be good. You got to figure it out. But to those people, I would also, say, look at where we still are at as a country, as a city, a county. I mean, for example, Alma is still holding these meetings in Zoom meetings because we're not ready to go back to normal, because it isn't normal still. And unfortunately, we're still living in that time, which isn't normal, or you can call it a new normal. But my group has every intention of finishing its building and opening it up, but for COVID, a force majeure event, we would have been open by now. It's disrupted every way of life and everything that we've ever done. So I would just like the commission to, rather than, blindly say, hey, look, we went to November, that's more than enough time. I would just ask them to please consider the plight that not just the country has gone through, not just the city of Alma has gone through, not just what individuals have gone through, but everything in what we've gone to, and that return to some sort of normalcy where we can actually look out 6 months and know that we're going to be. And I don't think anybody can 100% say, look, I can tell you where we're going to be as a country 6 months from now. And I think it's really hard to have those such deadlines, because when we set the November 1st deadline, we didn't understand that we'd be running into this huge lumber shortage. So I would just ask everybody to really keep an open mind, understand that we've gone through probably the biggest event of all of our lifetimes, whether you're 10 years old or you're 100 years old. This is probably the most important event of our lifetimes. I understand I'm most likely running up against time, but again, I would just ask you to keep an open mind and consider increasing the addition of time for those provisioning centers that still are not yet open. Thank you.
Okay, I have this is Michelle. I have a couple questions regarding that. When did you start your construction? Was it right after, you got approved? And then we also have other businesses building large buildings and homes actually going up in our city that aren't having the shortage problem. They're going up quite fast. So that's some of my concerns is, that structure seems to be taking longer to get started. And then of course, COVID hit. We all understand that. We all know, but we've also had other businesses coming into town, developing and being able to build, and also home constructions, which need the lumber that you're saying that you can't find. So that's my only concern about you coming to us at the end of August, already wanting another extension. So that's my concern.
Hey, Greg, I have a question.
Yes, Larry.
Why do you have your property for sale? If you plan on doing it, why do you have a for sale sign?
Are you addressing me? My name is Ben, not Greg. That's why I'm a little confused.
Yes, I am asking you. You have a sign out there for sale or lease.
I was not aware of that for sale sign or lease. I can go back and talk to the people, doing the construction. I don't believe that is for our site. Maybe they're looking ahead, realizing that we're not going to get this extension, and they may be abandoning it. This is the absolute first that I've heard of that. So before I make any comment on that, I'd like to go back and
you can drive by and see it. It's your property.
Okay. Well, again, I'd have to talk to the owner of the land about that before I would feel correct making any comment on it. As to the question that was posed before your question, we did start construction in January. We've been in touch with several lumber yards lately and beforehand. And again, if you just look up lumber shortage, you will find that there's a lumber shortage. I can't speak for other businesses and what kind of deals that they've been able to cut with lumber yards in order to get their lumber. I know that maybe they could have been even out further than us and had pre-ordered, and now they're just fulfilling those orders from a few months ago. I know our order is definitely delayed, and we're looking at our lumber arriving in September at this point. As soon as we get that, it's full bore, it's full go. But as anybody knows that's done construction, you can't build the roof until you build the walls, and that's one of the reasons why we've had a bit of delays is we are waiting for those things. And again, I mean, it's not that I'm just coming up with a lumber shortage. It's a very real thing. That's why I would suggest that you go to Google, you go to any, and type in lumber shortage, and you're going to see all kinds of stories about it, because it is absolutely true. Again, as for other people procuring lumber, I can't speak to how they've done so.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the commission? One last time, any other members of the public that would like to address the commission? I'm seeing none, so with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting for this evening.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Amy, one last time, if you would, please.
Thank you. Roger,
Yes.
Roxanne, Mayor,
Yes. I didn't catch that.
Larry,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
and Audra.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll be adjourned tonight. So thank you, everybody. Everybody, appreciate it. All the good conversation we had this evening, and look forward to the next time we can get together.